Welcome back to episode 7 of the Iceberg series. Previously, we found our 5th colonist, and Nug found love, after beating him to the ground. You just never know what a person's into. Eventually, the two got married after barely 2 quadrants together. They rushed things a bit, but when you know, you know. Hopefully. The raids have been getting quite substantial, and the colonists have had quite a few close calls so far. With the addition of Dragon, the extra firepower should help out in that regard. At least a little bit. One of the next goals in the colony is try to get the next tier of mechs online so they can start using scythers in combat. It's going to be really nice having a few tanky machines to hold doorways so the raiders don't come flooding in. One of the things we can work on next is upgrading these beds, the ones we've been using for medical. We have the tech and all the resources to build full hospital beds now, so we may as well take advantage of it. There we go, first bed is built. And now the second. But we're going to have to shuffle things around here and move Rimgo in. Move her over to one of these new beds so we can deconstruct the old one. I'm sure she won't mind being left on the floor for a little bit here. That should help quite a bit with any future illness. It would be nice to get a vitals monitor going as well. Well, soon. We've been working our way through a bunch of techs that we likely aren't going to be using anytime soon, or perhaps even at all. One thing we could start working on is multi-barrel weapons. That we will use. Miniguns would actually be pretty useful, given how large the raids are becoming. The only drawback is that they're going to absolutely shred these ice walls, and we're going to need replacements after practically every raid we use them in. Might still be worth it. Next up, let's work on replacing more of this wood floor with carpet. We're going to have to do it one square at a time until we have enough cloth for all of it. Maybe blue wasn't the best color to choose inside of an iceberg. Oh well, too late now. We're committed. Hey, a steel meteorite has just impacted north of the iceberg. That's going to be massively helpful for the near-term progress. It's going to be the first time we're able to mine out usable resources aside from that jade earlier. Well, this isn't the worst possible thing, but a group of manhunting polar bear have arrived at the colony. Aside from how absolutely frightening 10 half-rotten Minger polar bears scratching around outside your house would be, this is actually somewhat useful since we can just hide out inside, let them defend the door against the next raid. Meanwhile, we can start replacing some of these doors with steel that we've been getting lately. It would be great to get some of this plasteel back. It's not the most efficient use of resources since we do lose some, but it's going to be worth it nonetheless. The bears have fallen asleep south of the base, so let's allow everyone to journey just to the north to mine out the rest of the steel. The colonists are already making quick work of this meteorite. It's almost half mined out already. Well, multi-barrel weapons are already finished, so we could start making a minigun. Until we can get the resources, let's start working on hunter drones. Those could be pretty handy for the large tribal raids. Oh nice, we received more cargo pods from somewhere. Some poor farmer sent out their shipment only to have the ship crash or jettison their product. Well, it's ours now, and we're going to turn it into sweet, sweet nutrient paste. Yum. And the steel isn't half bad either. now we just need the gestator and we'll be able to start growing scythers. Unfortunately, we don't quite have the resources yet. We'll need more steel and plasteel. At least we can get our first subcore made. Well, it looks like an infestation has dug its way to the surface. Were they in the ice to begin with, or did they walk across the ice? It's difficult to imagine they were actually in the ice already. Otherwise, wouldn't they just be frozen? Well, anyway, let's leave those up as a rude surprise for the next group of raiders to come by. Or the next unlucky traders. Let's hope raiders. Ah, looks like a visitor has made it to the walls without triggering the insects. Good for them. Let's see what they brought to trade. We can sell them our extra weapons at least. May as well pick up a few extra medicine for the next plague that inevitably rolls through the colony. And we can also get some components too. That'll be handy. Good trade. Not long after that, a mech cluster has crashed into the ice once again. These mechs certainly are persistent. Why would they be so angry about 5 humans living on Iceberg? Perhaps they're still in the process of terraforming this planet, and part of their protocol is to make sure life's not present until the process is complete. That, or there's an angry architect lingering around. Anyway, the cluster has landed directly on top of the insect cocoons, so all we really need to do is wake them up, and they should battle to the death. Well, one of their deaths. Oh nice, a shaman merchant has arrived and managed to avoid the insects and mechs completely. Let's see what they have to trade before things get too hectic out there. Unfortunately, there's really nothing we can trade to them. It'd be really nice to stock up on more shock and insanity lances, but that isn't going to happen here. Well, good luck on your way out, merchant. Hope the bugs don't bite. Too badly, at least. Oh wow, instead of those traders waking the bugs on their way out, a new group of travelers have arrived at the worst possible place and time. Right into the bug nest. Now they're awake and tearing them apart. And look at that, the mechs are awake too and killing the bugs. Well, that worked out nicely at least. The bugs made quick work of both the visitors and the mechs, and now they're heading straight for the shaman merchant. Luckily for the merchant, they decided to set up camp just north of the iceberg, so the bugs have quite a ways to travel. Well, that's unfortunate. Just as the bugs are arriving to fight the merchant, another cluster has arrived. Let's deal with that later. For now, back to the bugs. In the process of shooting at the bugs, a stray bullet hit one of the thrombos, and now they've joined into the brawl. It's not the worst possible thing to happen, but the shaman merchant's getting destroyed by the angry fluffy monsters. Well, I guess it did work out for us. Not so much for the trader. The insects are all down, and even a couple of thrombos have collapsed. Solid work, everyone. Now we have to bring the loot in. Well, bring the loot in after this last thermo calms down. Oh, no, never mind. The Empire has arrived to try to collect tribute and has been met with the last remaining angry thrombo. They took it down quick, and now we're free to go outside once again. Next up, let's see if we can deal with this extra cluster that landed earlier. Only a few hours later, before we could even bring all the loot in, another Manhunter pack has arrived, just to make things a bit more difficult. There must be some mysterious research facility nearby that has fallen into disrepair, allowing these polar bear test subjects to slowly escape over time. Not really sure how else to explain it. Let's see if we can wake up these mechs with a well-placed mortar shell. Well, that worked. Sort of. The mechs are awake, but the polar bears are ignoring them. Okay, now at least some of them are making their way over. But if they trickle in one at a time, they're never going to do any damage. At least the polar bears managed to take out a few mechs before they were taken out. That's quite a few mechs attacking the colony now. We're going to have to deal with this before more get spawned. Let's open one of the corridors and allow the mechs to make it into the first choke point. It's going to make it easier to clump them up and keep them stunned. Unfortunately, we're a bit lacking in damage, so it's unlikely that we'll be able to kill these centipedes before the stun wears off. We'll leave the mechs to tank the damage and send everyone to the north to try to flank. Ouch, Draken definitely should have been in cover, and that poor decision led to him being down pretty quick. Everyone else is still in decent shape, so hopefully we can finish these mechs off before the next stun. Fantastic, that did work pretty well. Let's get Dragon tended to and clean this mess up. Hardly 12 more hours have passed and already another threat is on the horizon. Not so great timing since another centipede has made its way into the base. At least the raiders are engaging the turrets, which is going to buy us a little bit of time. They did take a fair bit of damage, so that should make things a little bit easier. Wonderful. We were able to pick them off as they trickled into the corridor, and now the rest of them are fleeing for their lives. That worked out pretty well. Now we just need to go out and clean up the rest of that cluster, and we'll be all set. Ooh, no. On our way out, another Lancer has popped. Hopefully no one takes any serious damage. Alright, the last spawner is down now. There should not be any more problems. For now. May as well trade with a shaman merchant while Sarah's out there. We can sell these 2 Thrumbahorns that we just got, and a bit of plasteel. That'll give us enough to get the Psychic Sanity Lance. That's a perfect trade. Gets rid of a bit of wealth and gives us utility in return. We need to start clearing out some of the meat in the freezer and turning it into chem fuel. First, let's get rid of all this insect meat. They wouldn't mind eating it very much, but we've just got so much food in general that it'd be better off as chem fuel at this point. It looks like Sarah got a bit distracted over at the tailor bench, but it turns out it was worth the effort since she just finished a masterwork Thrumbo parka. She decided to immediately put it on. No one could blame her for wanting to show off her near perfect piece of work. Let's take a portion of that steel that we got from the meteorite and previous raids to finish flooring in the rest of these front hallways. That probably won't make a huge difference for future raids, but it looks a bit nicer. That's always important, right? Well, this is a completely unexpected turn of events. It probably should have been pretty obvious that this was going to happen, but honestly it's still pretty surprising. Nug has become pregnant. Already. They're really rushing through the stages of this relationship, aren't they? First punches, then marriage, then comes the baby and the... No, that can't possibly be right. Well, anyway, Nug is pregnant and the first child's on the way. It's not exactly the healthiest environment to bring a baby into, but what can you do? Oh nice, a bulk goods trader has arrived. We really can never get enough of these, so it's good to see. Let's unload most of this chem fuel that we just made. It's easy enough to replace. May as well. On top of that, we can get rid of the excess Thrumbo meat. In return, let's get a bunch of components. It would be nice to get steel as well. We'll see what else we can sell. There we go. That gives us 250 steel on top of the components. Really nice trade. Now we can use all the steel that we got to build the remaining structures we need to start growing scythers. The large gestator is all we really need to grow the first scyther, but they're not going to be able to recharge at the small charging station, so we're going to need to build a large mech recharger as well. Alright, all set. Now we just need to get the rest of the resources we need for a scyther, and then we can start growing. Unfortunately, Sarah is at her bandwidth limit, so she's going to have to either scrap some old mechs, add bandwidth equipment, or build an antenna. Let's go ahead and build a mech commander helmet. It's a great helmet to begin with, but it's also going to increase her bandwidth. Win-win. Let's hope for decent quality. Whoa, she got a legendary. Fantastic work, Sarah. Now she can sustain up to 12 bandwidth. 124% shard protection is not bad either. Should be pretty challenging to damage her head now, that's nice. Sarah's been busy at work crafting more gear for the colonists. Next up is a hunter pack. It'll be interesting to see how these fare against the larger tribal raids. Let's give it to Moss to wear into the next battle, see how that goes. Wonderful. Shield tech has just finished up, and we've got a shield core just sitting around waiting to be turned into a low shield pack. Since Sarah's already been making more equipment, let's work on that next. And there we go. The shield pack's all ready. This should end up incredibly useful for the next challenging raid. And we can have Nug wear this for now. Soon she's not going to be able to go into combat at all, but for now, we'll keep it on her just to drop in case of emergency. Ah, lovely. A toxic fallout has settled in the area. Luckily the colonists already don't have much reason to go outside, and anything that does need to be hauled back in can just be done by the mechs. Luckily the entirety of our food production is already completely encased in ice. That doesn't actually sound good, does it? Well, at least it's protected from poison. Oh no, our penguins have become sick. Luckily it's just the flu. They mostly just sleep anyway, so they should have no problem getting over it. Still, though, no one wants to see their pet penguins get sick. Let's move their food up into this new hallway that we carved out earlier. That'll give the penguins a bit more space to expand. We can add a few more penguins to the flock. Herd? Whatever you call a group of penguins. Well, clearly our quarantine procedures were insufficient. That or no one's been washing their hands. Actually, yeah, that's it. No one has been washing their hands. We don't even have a single sink in this whole place, let alone a bar of soap. Actually, this is a good opportunity to start researching medicine production and finally start producing our own industrial medicine. We can grow the herbal medicine, so we'll only need to source the neutroamine. Now we just have to wait out this toxic fallout. Well, the armadillos got impatient and decided to attack before the weather cleared. They brought enough shields to equip almost every single one of them. This will make things a bit more interesting. We could try to use EMP grenades to break the shields, but with only 5 fighters, we're going to need all the guns we can get. Let's just hope we've got enough to break the shield before they get too close. Nice, that is working pretty well. The shields are going down quick. Alright, let's pull back and try to drag them to the entrance. There we go. That was way easier than it first appeared. Rolling in with nothing but melee might not have been their best idea. Especially on the ice. Now, to strip all these bodies and take their shields, as well as haul in all these weapons to smelt down. Oh, fantastic. Take a look at Bowman. 12 shooting on a fast learner with Masochist? We'll take it. She doesn't have many other skills besides shooting and intellectual, but with Fast Learner, we could potentially level her with any skill we need. The one downside is that she lost her kidney in the raid, and we're going to have to replace that as soon as possible, or she's not going to survive an infection. Still though, definitely worth trying to recruit. We've gone ahead and stashed her over in this unfinished ice cave, but we're going to need to build an actual room so she doesn't freeze to death. And now we need to find that kidney. Next up, let's start building a temporary room for her. On second thought, we're going to need a bedroom for her eventually, so we can just use it as our prison for now, until she joins and then convert it over. In either case, it's going to need a heater first and foremost. Oh, that's good luck. A bulk goods trader's flying over. Let's see what they brought. We can't buy much, but at least we can get the rest of the resources that we need to grow a new scyther. We've already made a good start recruiting bowmen, and our room is finished now. Well, at least the walls are. Now we still need to get the heater going, or she's gonna have a real bad time in her frozen jade box. What a weird prison to have built around you. All the fun and games are gonna have to be put on pause for a moment because another mech cluster has landed. Rough. This one has a mortar included. Luckily it won't initiate for 6 days. That does give us a bit of time to prepare. Okay, then fun and games are back on. Speaking of fun and games, Nug has just entered her 3rd trimester and is preparing to give birth. That does mean she's going to be next to useless in combat. We can't really afford to get her injured at this point, so she's going to have to stay behind for the next couple fights. Admittedly, that is going to make dealing with this cluster a bit trickier. Let's hit the cluster with our own mortar before we start getting shelled by it. Instead of keeping Nug in the safety of the hospital, let's give her EMP grenades and let her stand in the back. Way in the back. She'll definitely be fine. She'll probably be fine. We can use the same tactic as before and pull the mechs back up to a choke point. The stragglers are going to target the wall, but we can afford the material loss for now. Hopefully the Militaurs can stay up long enough to tank the mech damage. Fantastic work so far. That's most of the mechs dealt with. Now just to pick off the last few. Okay, those are dealt with now. We can send out Sarah and Dragon to deal with the remainder of the cluster. Dragon can use the smoke launcher to stop the turrets from locking on. Then they can get close enough to deal with the turrets via frag grenade. Ooh, turns out there is still a mech or two up. Dragon took a direct hit from the Lancer. That does kind of throw a wrench into the plans. Let's send everyone else out to support them. Okay, there we go. The last mechs are dealt with. Now we can finish off this cluster. All done. And we even managed to save the unstable power cell. Nice. Absolutely perfect. Well, minus Dragon getting hurt, but still. Seriously? We defeat one mech cluster only to have another one land on the ice? It's hardly even been 12 hours. Luckily, we can delay fighting this one since it doesn't initiate for another 6 days. That's the end of episode 7 of the Iceberg series. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for updates on all future videos. For those of you who made it all the way to the end, please consider checking out my Patreon to help support the creation of more videos like this one. You'll find the link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and see you for the next one.